Purdy to throw. Feeling the pressure, flushed out. Purdy on the run. He's got wheels, and he's got the first down. And then some. Purdy turns on the burners. Pedal to the middle. He's in. Touchdown, 55.
All right, we're back. We got to talk about it. So Wisconsin beats Nebraska 24-17 in overtime last night. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get through this one. I mean, it sucks. It's a thing that we've experienced a ton over the last 7 years. It's a fan base that I don't want to say doesn't deserve it, but probably the closest thing to an undeserving pain that you can get to. But it's taking its toll again. I think like around that 3-4 year mark, it took that emotional toll where you kind of had to check out for a second. And like it's getting to that point again because that sucked, especially with the way it started. I think that was a big key into it, but we'll dive into everything as we normally do. And we're going to try and sound uplifting and keep you around, but hopefully you feel the same where, damn, it's taking its toll. Losses like this, games like this, especially with the way they started. There's like obviously a couple of positive sides that come out of it, and I'm going to share my step back look at kind of what I tried to think about last night. But it's really hard. It's really hard to cheer for this team the same after 7 years of misery. That's really the best way to put it, right? So, going into the game, we lose 24-17 in overtime. We start off the game. Whoa. I mean, I think one of the few positives that I'll share is I think Chubba Purdy's the guy. I think he gave himself a clear answer that as long as he's healthy next week, he's the guy who will end the year for us, most likely. So he looked great. I mean, he made throws. He didn't turn the ball over. He protected the ball. I mean, he had a pick, but that was the last play of the game, just trying to make a play. So whatever. But he looked pretty good. He looked comfortable in the pocket, more comfortable than the other two that played 4 or 5 more games than he did. But he looked like the quarterback that he was in the recruiting time when he was in high school. Like that's what everybody saw. That's what Florida State saw. That's what Mike Norvell saw. And he looked good at the beginning of the game. I mean, what a shock at the beginning of the game, that first drive. He scrambles outside on 3rd and 3. I think everybody was doing the same thing. Get down, slide. Oh, score. Yeah, that was quite the start. We're up 7-0. A team who scored 13 points in every game of the rest of the year combined in the first quarter, put up 14 last night and lost the football game again. And then the next drive, what was 2nd and 20? He steps back, looks comfortable in the pocket, fires a dart to a Jalen Lloyd who's somewhat covered, breaks a tackle, takes it to the house, 56 yards, 59 yards, whatever it was. All right, let's do it. And finally, we're going to piece something together, roll to a win, get to a bowl game. Like, we look so good. But then that thought creeps back in the back of your head. Wait, this is Nebraska. It's 7 years of this. How are we going to blow it? And I think everybody did the same thing. And it was really hard, too, because this coaching staff is very good at filling your brain with, well, we're going to finish games. Who cares if the 1st, 2nd, 3rd starts? We're going to pull through in the 4th. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. They just didn't, man. They had every opportunity to just put that game away. And that leads me into one of my biggest points of this entire recap. 4th and 2, up 14-0 in the first quarter on the 36-yard line, 34-yard line, whatever it was. Kick a field goal. Try. Don't say, well, he didn't miss that one later. Okay, what's the difference if he's trying to take points to go up by 3 scores in the first quarter? Or let Boucher punt it 16 yards. That's all he punts it anyway. Why go for it? I don't understand it. We handed all the momentum back. Here's an opportunity with way better field position than we would have gotten unless we missed a field goal and the momentum back to get yourself right back in the ball game. And I know Rule had said, if you look at the analytics there, they always say to go for it. Yeah, the analytics don't include the intangibles, which is this team doesn't score a lot of points. So take opportunities to get points when you can get them because Alvano's got the leg to make that. And I know he missed the one. But in that situation, he hadn't yet. I mean, take the points or try or punt it deep and make their offense go all the way down the field against our defense and extend the field by 35 more yards. I don't get it. You just gifted them the momentum, let them back in the game. I couldn't wrap my head around that play for the longest time because we want to be a defensive-minded football team, but yet we don't put our defense in the best situations to be a defensive team, right? I don't understand that. And then at the end of the game, you want to talk about, well, Purdy hasn't gotten a lot of reps yet. He just kept adding reasons to then again punt it. Like that flipped the whole game around because then they go down and they score and they make it 14-7 and they're right back in it. Do you know the difference to a team that just lost to Northwestern by a bunch of points, who also is bowl eligible now, for when you kick a field goal, go up 17-0, go up by 3 scores, or pin him deep at the 1 yard line, go 3 and out, make him punt it back to you, and the end of the first quarter is 14-0. I mean, it was anyway, but they scored 2 seconds after. But do you know how differently you can control a game by doing things like that? What a bonehead coaching decision. And that one stuck out in my head pretty much throughout the whole game. Like, just to gift momentum back on the road. Don't ever do that. That's a huge no-no. And I think he knows that. I think he regrets it. I would hope because it was terrible. Flip the whole game around. Could have been the difference. It could have been the difference for the rest of the game, them going down and scoring to make it 14-7. They're right back in it. They're like, all right, we can do this. We can go back out. I know we've just thrown in a wet fart the first 2 drives, but we're right back in it now. We let them do it. Bonehead coaching call. I don't care who made the decision. Rule, Satterfield, whoever said go for it. No. You pin that deep. That's not who this team is. This isn't an offensive team where it's like, 4th and 2, we'll get it. 2 yards is not the easiest thing in the world for this offense. It's not a different offense now. You saw who they were the second half. Granted, they were better overall, and that was simply because Purdy was serviceable. How many times have I said in these recaps, previews, all we need is a serviceable quarterback. Not an above and beyond quarterback, but a serviceable one. And we got that performance, and we still couldn't pull through. On the defensive side of the ball, I thought we were all right. I didn't think we were god-awful. We were worse than normal, but we weren't god-awful. I mean, we made stops when they needed to. We had 2 4th down stops against a massive back that is really hard to keep behind the line. Phelan Sanford, one of the best plays of the year on that 4th and 1 play, just stuffs Braylon Allen. I think he's going to be out next week with a concussion, but he just put his body on the line to make a play there. I love Phelan. He's a true black shirt. But the defense outside of that they were fine. I think the secondary got exposed a couple of times over the middle. I thought Luke Reimer probably played his worst game in his Nebraska career. I think Marcus Buford's taken a step back. I know he was out for most of the year, but I don't think he's been anything special. He was a leading tackler yesterday, which isn't a good sign because he's a free safety, so it's a lot of plays behind the front line and the linebackers. But I thought he was bad in coverage. He missed a couple of tackles. I thought we missed a couple of tackles in the backfield. Gifford, Reimer, both of them did. Kind of out of character for both of those guys. But overall, 17 points at the end of regulation when we have 14 points in the first 9 minutes. Score one more touchdown within the next 3 quarters and we win it. And I get it. We could have won it with the Alvano field goal before half. There's all these hindsight's 2020. Like, you can set all those up, but in the game, we just didn't make the plays. Wisconsin was 7 for 15 on 3rd down in the game. It's too high of a clip for this team. They had 316 total yards, 160 of them through the air, and out of character for us, 156 rushing. And I know they talked about Braylon Allen coming back from injury, and his stat line was atrocious. 22 carries for 60 yards and 2 scores. I thought their other backs were better. Their other backs averaged like 3.5 to 4.5 a carry. Braylon Allen averaged 2.8 per carry. He's a big body, and I get why they want to surround the hype around him, but the 22 carries, 62 yards, 2 scores. 22 carries for 62 yards. What? You know how many times 22 carries is? Emmett Johnson got 13 carries yesterday. Grant got 12 carries yesterday. 22. Emmett almost had the same amount of yards as him. But anyway, that's another tangent. I think everybody can agree that broadcast was awful to watch. Get us off NBC ever again. Those 2 were terrible. I think it was Todd Blackledge. My God, there's a reason you don't work for ESPN anymore, buddy. That was brutal. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Wisconsin had some hurt players. They only told you 647 times, as if every other team in the country doesn't have injuries. But I thought Tanner Mordecai was good. He played like a 6th-year guy. 18 for 28, 160 yards and a score. He ran the ball effectively well. I mean, in my preview, I talked about he's not a guy that can run the ball very well. Apparently against us, he is. We couldn't cover the draw to save our life. That was a couple of big plays came from those draws. We couldn't even get hits on him. I mean, you'd be amazed what happens if Luke Reimer or Gifford meet him in the hole and he tries to scramble out, and with a broken hand, somebody just lights your day up. It'd be amazing how different that game would have been. We couldn't get to him. We couldn't make hits. We missed tackles. We had him a couple times in the backfield. We couldn't get to him. I will give credit to Wisconsin's offensive line was the best I think we've seen all year, other than Michigan, which is high praise for a 5-5 team. I mean, we couldn't get to him. We only had 2 sacks on the day. I think we had 3 tackles for loss. No, I'm sorry. We had 4 tackles for loss. They had 8. We'll talk about their defense, but they had 8 tackles for loss. We only had 4. Our defense just didn't make the game-changing plays outside of the 4th stop that we needed to make happen. But our offense went so stagnant that it's hard to be like, well, the defense, it's so hard to sit here and be like, because we looked so good. But we knew what was going to happen. I've seen the movie before. We've all seen that movie before. It's just emotionally draining at the point that we were at to now be at this point. And it's almost checkout time. Like a bowl game, small game. This team, I should bleep that, but this team doesn't deserve it. I'm going to cut that, but this team does not deserve it. The players deserve it as people, I'm sure. But with the opportunities they've been gifted and just to roll over, to nobody put their hand in the ground and say, I got to step up, make a play, and we got to make this happen. You've had your opportunity. You got nobody to blame. You got nobody to blame but the guy in the mirror. You've had the fandom. You've had everything behind you for the last 7 years. We just haven't been able to get it done. Another coaching decision I want to talk about that I don't love, and I've heard a lot of controversy on these points the last couple of days or the last 16 hours. The end of the game drive. We were moving down the field. Good throws from Purdy, good scrambles, getting out of bounds, good runs, another 17, 18-yard run from Emmett Johnson, who didn't get nearly enough carries yesterday. He only carried the ball twice in the second half. That's atrocious. I don't want to say hopefully he's hurt, but that's the only reason I can hear why he wouldn't have carried the ball at least 15 more times the way he was running it. He's very good. Anyway, so we're driving the ball down. We got, 1 minute and 36 seconds left, and we have all 3 timeouts, and we get all the way down there, and we use 2 timeouts. They come with 20 seconds and 13 seconds. Why? And don't say, well, last week we wanted to kick a field goal. Last week we were going to take the lead. That was to take the lead. This was to try and take the lead. We want you to go take the lead, not play for overtime. You want to talk about these kids gaining experience, not having experience. Why put them in an area where they haven't been in overtime on the road this year? We haven't been in any overtime games. Why put them in a new space? Just let them go win it. They've been in this space where they got to go score to win it multiple times this year. You want to talk about percentages and analytics? Play towards your team's strengths and where they've been before. Don't put them in an unknown space. And maybe that's a building block thing for him. Maybe that's I don't know what goes on in Matt Rule's head, but I didn't like it. I thought, at least take a couple shots. Run a play with 44 seconds. Run a play with 30 seconds. Don't let it tick all the way down to 20. You're just wasting time. I don't want to say playing scared, because I would never put that on this team, but that's what it felt like. It's atrocious, man. But shout out to Will Pauling. He looked good on the outside for Wisconsin. 8 receptions, 76 yards. He consistently beat us over the middle. He got his bell rung towards the end of the game. I know he's banged up with his ankle, so hopefully he can recover, because Wisconsin fought back, man. It's a fight that I would love to see Nebraska have, and they've had it a couple times this year, but not to finish things like that. Leading defensive player for Wisconsin, linebacker Jordan Turner. 4 solo tackles, 9 total tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. He was all over the place. Our offensive line played okay. I actually didn't think they were too bad at all. They only had 2 sacks on us. Purdy scrambled really well. He got out of the pocket really well. Didn't make the boneheaded mistakes of throwing picks when he's trying to run away. He almost did, but I thought Chubba Purdy's the guy. He's the guy you go into Iowa with. It's a game that you can't feel good about after that. Whatever, man. That's what the point. This is like, whatever. You've had so many opportunities. so much momentum, and we've just been Nebraska. Nebraska's going to Nebraska. So it sucks. But we'll move on, live and learn. Big week next week. Big week this Friday coming up, Black Friday. Matchup against Iowa. Hopefully we can spoil them and spoil their mood going into the Big Ten title game where I think they know they're going to get blasted, but they won the division. So it is what it is for them. Congrats. See you Friday. We'll preview that one on Wednesday, but this one stings. It's emotionally draining. Aren't we tired of it? Hopefully we can bounce back. Go Big Red.